What's up, aceholes? I don't usually do talking head videos because I don't really have any equipment, I don't have a teleprompter, no charisma, and not a great head to look at. But I did want to talk about the leadership crap that happened last week. Let's start with Labour. They were the only party not to have a leadership ballot, but they've made a lot of headlines because of their ministerial reshuffle. This sort of thing happens pretty much every election, it's just Labour hasn't been re-elected to government in quite a while. All the ministry spots are determined by factions in Labour, and they're based on how many MPs were elected from each state. So because at the end of this election more people were elected in New South Wales, that meant the proportion of Victorian ministers had to go down. That's why Mark Dreyfus had to go. You see, usually in governments, ministers have scandals, and then those scandals are used as an easy reason to chuck someone out after the election and replace them with a new minister. Problem with Labour governments is they don't really have as many scandals, so you don't really have good reasons to just chuck them out at the beginning. For example, they didn't have a guy who charged taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars for his home internet, or a lady who made a grant program to accept submissions from communities only to completely ignore them and make a colour-coded spreadsheet of what funding could help at the election. Nor did they have a guy who keeps getting pissed and passing out on the street. While Mark Dreyfus didn't do anything wrong in particular, as Attorney General he underperformed in areas such as whistleblower protections and the Anti-Corruption Commission, so probably not the worst thing in the world that we have a new Attorney General now, although I have no reason to believe the new one will be any better. Some commentators have pointed out how they got rid of a Jewish minister. Oh, the humanity. But if you do care about identity politics, then they also got rid of a Muslim minister as well, so equals pequals. As for getting rid of Eddie Cusick, I don't have too much to say on this one. He also didn't particularly do anything wrong, although as Science and Industry Minister, I don't know, one of the few things he did was invest in, I think it was quantum computing, with a lot of money, almost $1 billion. And that's looking like being a bit of a dud. Some are saying it's a very bad look to get rid of a Muslim minister at the time of this whole Gaza crap. But to make up for it, they promoted a different Muslim into cabinet, so it's okay, yeah? For the Nationals, I don't want to spend too much time on them because they're basically the same as before the election. The more right-wing Matt Canavan challenged David Littleproud for the leadership, but he lost. They won't tell us by how much he lost, it must have been embarrassing. And sports rorter Bridget McKenzie remains their leader in the Senate.
I lead a united, highly intellectual group of fighters.
The Nats are the ones who led the coalitions on things like their voice position and nuclear power because Dutton was a weak leader who gave in to them. And it looks like they're not only completely sticking with nuclear, but considering getting rid of net zero as well, something that Scott Morrison got them into. That'll win back those teals. The Greens. Adam Bandt was kicked out of Parliament, so they had no choice but to replace their leader. I can't imagine why Bandt's tactic to block everything to get a better deal, get nothing in return, wave it through at the last minute before an election, and then complain that it hasn't done anything yet, wasn't a hit with the voters. The Greens elected Larissa Waters as their new leader. We don't really know much about her. Some people have commented on my post that she has a good public image, but when dealing with constituents face to face, she's not as good of a personality, but that's starting to get into gossip territory. We'll have to see whether she continues Bandt's blocking strategy or whether she goes for a more pragmatic Fiona Patton type horse trading compromise tactic. Now the Liberals, the main game in town. I just want to start with Jacinta Price, who switched from the Nationals, pissing them off, to go run as the deputy leader of the Liberal Party, only to not even bother running for the deputy leader of the Liberal Party when it turned up. Deadly. Susan Lee won the leadership by 4 votes. This is a lady who wasn't known for any policy positions in particular, or she was, but then she backtracked on them, like being against live export of sheep and then being for it, or being pro-Palestine and now being more pro-Israel. But she is known for numerology, which is the wacky belief that numbers control your life and your luck. So she added an extra letter to her name because having a 6-letter name is obviously way better than having a 5-letter name. She's also known as the minister who had to resign in disgrace, or was it being fired by Turnbull, I can't remember, for taking taxpayer-funded trips to the Gold Coast to go house hunting. I feel like nobody's really mentioning this very often.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
When Labour's Sam Dastyari accepted money from Chinese companies to pay his bills, which actually saves the taxpayers money, he felt compelled to leave Parliament entirely, whereas Susan Ley gets promoted to leader and hypothetically could become the Prime Minister. A lack of policy from Susan Ley is why I'm predicting we're going to see a lot more of this over the coming year and a bit.
Treasury.
The Deputy Leader will resume
A shooing motion across the table in the Parliament. I can take the rough and tumble. Every woman in this place knows how to do that. And this sort of sit down and shut up motion across the table to a woman who's speaking, as she's entitled to in the Parliament.
I certainly felt very uncomfortable with the bullying attitude of the Prime Minister to a first-term MP.
President, Senator Watt said the most disgraceful thing, and he's to withdraw it. I am disgusted in you.
Thank you, Senator Henderson.
Because if you've got no policies, just call the Prime Minister a bully.
Sit down.
I'm still hearing
Sit down, Buffett.
I also think she'll end up being like Brendan Nelson, a leader who takes charge after a really bad defeat at an election and gets rolled after about a year. Nothing personal to her, this used to be the norm in Australian politics until we started having close elections all the time. But also, she does seem like a terrible leader with no ideas, a shrill voice, and yeah, okay, I guess it is a bit personal to her. If the Liberal Party replaces her in about 1.5 years, then they'll have a new fresh face going into an election, and that will compare with Albo, who will almost certainly be slipping in the polls by then again. And if they pick someone like Tim Wilson for leader, who knows how to run a scare campaign, they might actually do not too badly at the next election. Alright, that's the end of this talking head video. If you want to see more of this format for some reason, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Until next time, see you later.